Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to session 8. And I see Sylvia is on the call. I'd like to welcome her to this week. Sylvia, we are in our 8th session of our fall CRA prep course. And it's been great. We get an average about 20 to 23, 25 participants each week. So I see there's a few more joining in. We go ahead and record these sessions so that we can send them out to the team afterwards if they want to help use that with their study preparation, as well as the materials. We'll forward that as well to them. So I'll be on the call through the duration of the meeting, but I will welcome everyone. If you have any questions, as I remind you that the chat is probably the easiest way to communicate with the speaker. But also I'm sure that Sylvia will have room at the end if she has time there to answer any questions. You can always email her or myself after the call as well. So welcome, Sylvia.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here with you guys. I really appreciate it, to share the work that we so importantly do here at UVA. So let me share my PowerPoint. Do I have that ability to share? Here we are.
Should, yeah.
Share that screen. And let me get to. Here we go. A moment to pick out. Okay. I guess just takes a couple seconds to get situated since I don't do this every day, but that's all good. All right, so welcome everyone. As Rita mentioned, my name is Sylvia LaRue, and let me go forward here and have some introductions if we didn't mind, or maybe that is inappropriate because we have so many people. I'm not sure since we can't see each other. Well, we can, but mostly seeing this screen. So I don't know. I was going to ask to share your name and department, and if you're preparing for the exam, that would help me. But I'm not sure if that would work in this setting, since we used to look like that table there in the past. This is how it was. Anyway, I can introduce myself. So I am Sylvia LaRue. I have a background in biology and have been working for most of my career and on the bench in research, and a lot of it doing animal research. And about the last 9 years, I actually crossed the street from MR4, MR5 and came to Cobb Hall here, and am working as in important work of animal welfare regulation. So should we skip the introductions, or what do you think, Rita? Okay, so.
I think it's fine if people want to go around the room and just maybe more importantly, just say if they're getting ready to sit for the exam or just what department they are. That's okay.
That would be good. Yeah, and that would help me see who people are.
Okay, Adetra, do you want to start?
I can start if you want. I am an office. I am a grants assistant, and I am not taking the exam this year.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'm in the School of Medicine Office of Grants and Contracts, and I think I'll take the exam next year. I think I need a little more.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'm Susan Hennigan, and I'm also in the Office of Grants and Contracts. And like Amber, I think I will probably take the exam next year. And thank you for doing this session. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Hi, it's Renise Gray. I am in the Department of Pediatrics. I'm a Grants and Contracts assistant, and I'm going with the rest of the group and planning on taking it sometime next year.
Sounds great.
I'm Jody Frederickson. I'm in the School of Engineering and Applied Science in pre-awards, and I'm taking the exam on November 18th.
Woohoo! You'll be great. It'll be great.
Hi, I'm Phyllis Hines. I'm in cell biology, and I am learning so many things and hope to take the exam in a year or so.
Great.
Hi, I'm Trish Ashley. I'm from the School of Engineering as well. I work with Jody, and I'm planning on maybe taking it next year.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Claire Fortune. I'm in the School of Engineering and Applied Science. I plan on taking the exam later. and work with Trish and Jody.
Sounds great.
Hi, this is Jingyi. I'm with C's Postal as well. I don't yet have a date to when to start my CRA exam yet, but it's in the work.
That's good. Is that everyone?
Hi, this is Ian. I'm at the Department of Biomedical Engineering, and I'm planning to take the exam, the test next year.
Wonderful. What was your name, sir? Because I used to work in biomedical engineering in the labs.
My name is Ian.
Ian, okay. I used to work with Dr. Janes, Kevin Janes.
Oh, cool.
So I was his lab manager for a bunch of years.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Great. Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Carol Pritchard. I'm a post-award account in the Office of Sponsored Programs, and I plan to take the exam in the spring.
Okay. That's good. You all have a good plan.
My name is Jessica Kelly. I'm in the Biocomplexity Institute, and I'm planning to take the exam in the spring also.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Spalding. I'm a senior administrator in Office of Sponsored Programs, and actually taking the exam next week on Thursday.
Wow. You go, girl.
Thank you.
So it seems like everybody?
This is Asa Lopatin. I'm a senior contract negotiator with OSP. I don't know if I'll ever take the exam. If I do, it will probably be next year, but I'm just hoping to get as much information as possible and refresh where I can.
Sure, of course. Great, good plan.
My name is Mohammed Ita. I'm currently working for engineering. I already passed the CRA exam, but just would like to get a refresher.
Wonderful.
I'm Alex Schwartz. I'm with Emergency Medicine, and I'll be taking it next fall.
Emergency medicine. Wow, that's so cool. It looks like we're representing all the departments. It sounds great. So I guess we're done. Is that true? Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. It really kind of helps me to see that we have, 20 interested participants, and you'll have a good plan for your exam. All right. So let's start with the goals, understanding animal research regulations. And I guess my biggest goal is to help you pass your exam. So that's not written here, but that is the goal here. So please contact me afterward, like Rita said, if you have any further questions, especially those that are taking the exams in the next week or the next month. So we'll just touch on a little bit about the public perspective of animal research and just a little bit about the early history of animal protection in the US, just to give you an idea about that. But we'll mostly delve into the federal regulations. And then we'll talk about the IACUC, what we call the IACUC, the Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee, that a lot of you deal with. You contact us. And then we'll talk about protocol review process. And then, of course, the relationship between the animal use protocols and the grants and contracts. And that is where you will be interacting. So why does it need to be regulated? It's very important because we need to protect the animal subjects mostly, right? It's fairly obvious that those subjects are vulnerable, and we protect them as we would a human subject. So the same rules apply here. We need to check them because they are funded. Research is funded, so much protection, animal welfare. So we need to ensure the safety and well-being of the subjects and the personnel involved in research. Here at UVA, we have an occupational health committee, or occupational health program rather, that where all animal handlers have to be trained and have to go through this assessment to ensure that their well-being is being protected. So they are checked for allergies and checked for other things when they're. And we don't want to bring zoonotic diseases to animal handlers, and vice versa. We don't want to bring anything from our world to the animal world. So that is important. We want to avoid unnecessary use of animals in research, and that's one of the most important things. The minimal amount of animals are to be used in research to obtain valuable data. Then we need to garner the public trust in scientific research. Funding is, scarce, and we need to make sure that it is done properly. Then there's other ethical considerations, such as the animal rights activists. They're out there and they have other concerns. They have concerns about, why are we using animals? Why can't we use cell culture? Why can't we use human subjects? And so we need to be mindful of that and do our research properly. A little bit about the early history of the animal protection laws and 1641. This won't be in your exam. Don't think so, but it's just a good little background. I thought I would add that in. In 1641, the early Puritans were the first laws to protect individual rights. And then in 1828, we had the first state law in New York to anti-cruelty law. And you will notice that is almost 200 years apart, 1641 to 1828. Nothing really happened between those 2 years that we know about. 1873 was the first federal legislation, or the 28-hour law, where animals were not allowed to be transported for more than 28 hours without a 5-hour rest period. It was really important. 1958, there was the Humane Methods of Slaughter Act, so that they wanted to protect livestock from suffering through slaughter, during slaughter. And then the most important two that we'll be dealing with here is in 1965, we had the disappearance, unfortunately, of this dog named Pepper, and the publication of, in this Sports Illustrated article. In 1966, there was a Life magazine article published, Concentration Camp of Dogs. And these two last ones, 1965 and 66, is what brought about the actual creation or adoption of the Animal Welfare Act. So just a little bit more about that. Dog Pepper was a Dalmatian stolen from this family in Pennsylvania. And unfortunately, she was found euthanized in a New York hospital after being stolen from her backyard and by an animal dealer and sold to a vivisectionist in the hospitals and for research. So her story did change America. And after that, 7 days after that, the representative introduced the pet theft bill on the House floor of Congress to introduce this Animal Welfare Act. And just quickly, this is not Pepper. This is another dog, just to show about that Life magazine in 1966. They showed this concentration camp for dogs. Unfortunately, dogs were being stolen and taken for research. So the public was very angry at the time after seeing this expose, and they were more letters being sent to Congress than they were for the civil rights and the Vietnam War at that time, about the anger of taking these dogs, these pet animals, as for research. And this, as I said, brought about the Animal Welfare Act back in 1965-66. So we'll talk a little bit about, a lot actually, about these regulations and guidelines that we use. So, and that we follow. So the first one is the Animal Welfare Act, which is promulgated or placed into effect by the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, Code Federal Regulations number 9. And We'll be talking a lot more about that. And then there's the Public Health Service Policy on Humane Care and Use of Laboratory Animals. And I'll just show you that. I don't know if you can see this, but this is the policy. It is 19 pages. It is a short little document. It actually came from the Health Research Extension Act from 1985. The Animal Welfare Act, as I said, was 1965, 66. And this was 1985. It came later. And on page 4, you'll see bullet number 3 there is the US government principles for the utilization and care of vertebrate animals used in testing, research, and training. And those are 9 principles that are in the policy itself on page 4 of that small document. And then the guide for the care and use of laboratory animals, I like show and tell. So here's the guide. And this is our Bible that provides guidance for what is done in the labs. Then there's also the FDA, Good Lab Practices, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Endangered Species Act, there's others, the Bird Migratory Treaty Act, and also the Marine Mammal Act. So there's a lot of different things that provide guides for us. And the Freedom of Information Act that we all know about. We're actually dealing with some of those right now, unfortunately. So then, so let's look at the PHS policy on humane care and use of laboratory animals. As I said, it came originally from the Health Research Extension Act, Public Law 99-158 of 1985. So it is intended to ensure that the grantees and contractors care for the use of animals humanely, of course. Implements and supports the US government principles as stated. Those 9 principles are within that document. The Office of Laboratory Animal Welfare is what we call OLA, and that is, they provide oversight for us and we report to them directly. And the PHS policy covers all vertebrate animals. And so if we went back to high school biology, we could say, what is a vertebrate animal? And this is where I would interact with the audience. I'm not sure if you want to interact, but we would go back to just very briefly to high school biology and say, what is a vertebrate animal? Anybody want to answer? You can, or I will just go on and tell you that it has a spine. It has, it is all animals, fish, turtles, cats, dogs, everything, right? Vertebrate animals. So PHS policy covers all the animals. And you'll see why I'm saying this in a few minutes. So the guide for the care and use of laboratory animals must be followed. As I stated, this is our Bible. And then we have the animal welfare assurance. The assurance is a contract. It's not really called a contract. It is an assurance that we have with the PHS policy. All institutions that are granted NIH funds must be having an assurance. So a little more about the assurance. It is a written description of the animal care and use program. All our methods that we use are written in this assurance. The qualifications, authority, and responsibility of the veterinarian are listed there. His education. Right now we have Dr. Sandy Feldman is our attending vet. So all his authority goes to him for this work. List of members of the IACUC and procedures they will follow to fulfill the requirements of the PHS policy. We have 16 members and they are all listed in there. The summary of training programs in humane animal care and use. We have a lot of training for animal handlers. They cannot do any work without this training. And then of course, there's this penalty for noncompliance. So if any PI is revoked for his work or he's suspended, that is a bad thing for us. And because, this could be revoking our assurance and loss of support for the entire institution. So we have to be very, very careful that everybody follows their protocol and that they are in compliance. Here is our PHS policy requires a compliance with the animal welfare regulations and the guide. This was the 8th edition in 2011, and I have heard from the grapevine that they have a working group that is trying to update this manual right now. So this provides a lot of guidance for us in a physical plant, in how to house animals, in how to have an IACUC committee. So it is an important book. The Animal Welfare Act, let's go to that. This is in 1965, 66. As I said, it is managed or promulgated, put into effect by the USDA. All research facilities that use or intend to use live animals as defined by the regulations must comply with the animal welfare regulations. And we have a registration, a license to be working with animals by the USDA. And so it is enforced by APHIS, which is Animal Plant and Health Inspection Services, Animal Care Division. So the Animal Welfare Act is enforced by the USDA versus the PHS policy is enforced by OLA. That's a good thing to remember. So here we have the animal welfare regulations. What is defined by them? And remember, I said the PHS policy covers all vertebrate animals. Here, the USDA Animal Welfare Act only covers any warm-blooded animal used or intended for use in research, teaching, and education, or testing and education, except for birds and rats and mice, bred used in research, and they exempt horses and other farm animals. So are they covering all the vertebrate animals that we use here at UVA? No, right? Because we have fish. We have frogs. So USDA is not covering those. No, they only cover these animals, and most of our animals are rats and mice. Of course, these are special genus. These are laboratory genus of mice and rats. We do have other rats and mice that are a field that are covered by the USDA. So it's strange, right? There's two sides of the government, each, covering different things. But what do we do here at UVA? Obviously, we cover everything, right? We inspect and ensure that everybody is doing okay. So a little bit more about the animal welfare regulations. Subpart C, this may be, I'm not sure if this is part of your studies, but we just want to include it to tell you that those are the rules for research facilities. And we have to follow the standards listed there. And then Title IX establishes the standards for animal husbandry, care, treatment, and transportation. And in 1989, the amendments were set for the exercise for dogs and physiological well-being for primates. Here at UVA, rest assured, we do not have primates, thank goodness. And we no longer have dogs, and we no longer have cats, we no longer have ferrets, we no longer have any pet animal really. We ensure that animals are well taken care of. There's a lot of enrichment mandatory to provide animals enrichment to promote their well-being for sensory whatever, for their well-being, let's just say it that way. So anyway, a little more about the animal welfare regulations. The IACUC oversees, now what do we do as the IACUC? We oversee the humane care and use of regulated animals. The IACUC reviews animal use protocols to ensure that they comply with the Animal Welfare Act requirements. And animals must, I'm sorry, what I'm going to say here is that you might think that it might be reduce, reuse, and recycle, what EHS tells us about, but no, in the animal world, we must consider alternative methods such as replacement, reduction, and refinement. And replacement meaning using other methods such as cell culture, such as computer modeling. Why can't we use other things instead of animals? Reduction use the minimal number of animals needed. So we ask our PIs to provide a strategy to come up with the minimal number of animals, such as a strategy, so a statistical analysis, right? So, and then to refine the procedures to minimize pain and stress. We want to have the least problems with our animals. And those are called the 3 R's for alternatives, and you'll see how important these are. So the Animal Welfare Act requires search for alternatives, and these two gentlemen were appointed in the 1950s, and they came up with this document, the Principles of Humane Experimental Techniques, and they came up with the reduction, replacement, and refinement topics or words that we use. So the USDA has these policies in 11 and 12. It's spoken about these, the 3 R's, and the PI is to provide written narrative of methods used and sources consulted to determine the availability of alternatives in their protocol. They are to do literature searches, and that's what they are. The USDA has category B, C, D, and E animals, and category D and E are mandatory literature searches for these PIs to find, are there other ways that we can do these experiments? So just to cover a little bit of the acronyms that you'll be seeing, the IACUC, obviously, USDA, Animal Welfare Act, the Animal Welfare Regulation, and Animal Welfare Regulation can be written 2 ways there as that. And then OLA is Office of Laboratory Animal Welfare, and it used to be called the OPRR, which is the Office for Protection for Research, for protection from research risks. And I'm not sure whether that is in your studies or not. So I just thought I'd include that just in case that they used to refer it as the OPRR. PHS, obviously, and NIH. And then we have the 2 legal terms, institutional official and the attending vet. And here at UVA, in the animal world, we have 1 institutional official, but I feel like there may be more institutional officials at UVA, and there may be some in the grant and contract world, and I'm not sure about that. Is that true? Maybe so. HREA is the law that I spoke about, where the PHS policy came from. ALAC International, Association for the Assessment and Accreditation of Laboratory Animal Care International. That is the gold standard. If you are accredited by ALAC, your institution is superior, which we are. We do have that. And this is a group of vets and PIs that inspect different institutions. So the AVMA provides us with guidance on anesthesia, analgesia, and euthanasia. So this is the medical part of it. And then there's the USDA APHIS, as I said before. So inspection of programs. This is really important. So the UVA IACUC inspects the facilities. So we do our own self-inspections twice a year. We self-regulate. We inspect the animal facilities and laboratories. And right now in this pandemic, it has been difficult. So we usually do this in April and October. But in April, OLA gave us a waiver to be able to not have to go through laboratories and other, the vivariums. It just wouldn't be safe. So we're right in the midst of deciding how we're going to handle this October-November inspection. So we're going to find some other methods of doing through Zoom or through phones or some other way to get this done. So then we also review the program. So we have program reviews twice a year, so where we document all our findings from the annual inspections. And we review the occupational health and safety program, the infrastructure and training of our animal handlers, and so on. And then we also have the inspection from USDA. And these guys come, the VMO, what we call the VMO, the veterinary medical officer, comes once a year Be calling you at 8 o'clock in the morning. Hey, where do I park? You know, I'm here. Oh my goodness, everybody get ready. Call up Dr. Feldman, call up all the vivariums, find out, you know, let them know that this inspection's happening. So they come and they, you know, check just only the covered animals. Remember, they don't go and see the rats and mice. They want to see the swine. They want to see any other hamsters or gerbils or any other animals that might be covered. Then they come back to the office and they check our documents and do a whole audit like that. So what is an animal care and use program? The ALAC did a good little cartoon here on how these pieces come together. We have institutional ACUC policies. We have the animal environment, housing, and management, which is related to the physical plant. Those folks help us in keeping the housing in a proper manner with temperature and humidity and all that they do. And then we have the vet care provided by the veterinarians and the vet techs. The accreditation program, back to ALAC International. This is, as I said, it's a voluntary accreditation program. It is very expensive, but UVA, we do have that. Institutions apply for the evaluation of the animal care and program. And they, as they said, they come, the site visit comes, it occurs every 3 years. So we had that in 2019 and they'll be coming back in 2022. And most grant applications ask whether we are accredited or not. And so you may check yes there. And so what is the hierarchy here at UVA? We have about more than 1,300 animal handlers at the very bottom there, animal researchers and animal care staff, which are overseen by the attending vet, and which is then overseen by the ACUC. And then at the very top is our institutional official there. And then the attending vet reports to him and the ACUC reports to him. We all report to him at the very top there. So a little more about Dr. Malur Ramasubramanian. He is our Vice President for Research, and he bears the ultimate responsibility for the program. He was appointed by the president to take this responsibility, and he has the authority to allocate resources as needed. We tell him if there's any issues that might need his attention. And he receives the semi-annual and non-compliance reports from the ACUC. We report to him, and then he reports to NIH and OLA. And he also appoints the members of the ACUC. So what is the committee composition? As I said, we have about 16 members and support staff. And nobody can just come to these meetings. You need to be appointed by the CEO or Dr. Ram, in this case, the Vice President for Research. We have a DVM or a veterinarian trained in laboratory animal medicine, which is not just any type of veterinarian. It's not your local vet that you would go to. These people are trained in this extra lab animal medicine study. And they are certified with DACLAM certification. So there is also participating scientists with experience in animal research. We can't just have somebody coming from, say, chemistry without any experience. They need to be appointed. They need to have some experience in their background with working in this field. And then we have non-scientists and non-affiliated members. We have several of those members. They're lawyers, or there could be priests or different lay members that provide a balanced review for our protocols. And then we have no more from the law states that we cannot have any more than 3 members from one unit, because that would be unduly not correctly reviewed from if it was too many from one place. And then we have alternate members. that could, alternate members need to cover for the same type of position. So a scientist alternate would cover for a scientist, or a lay member would cover for a lay member. So we have two sides of the government, as you saw, with two different laws. And so the USDA says, well, for the committee, we need to have a chair, we need a lab animal vet, and we need a non-affiliated member. And the PHS policy tells us on the other side that, well, we need a practicing scientist, we need a lab animal vet, we need a non-scientist and a non-affiliated. So what do we do here at UVA? We have everybody. That's the best way to ensure that we are covered properly. And so again, no more than 3 members from one unit as per USDA 1985. So the vet, a little more about the vet. He's responsible for the health and well-being of animals, and he must have the authority given by him. Who gives him the authority? It would be the IO. And he oversees aspects of the animal care and use to ensure the program complies with the guide. And the guide says that we must follow the Animal Welfare Act, and the guide says we must also follow the PHS, whatever's written in our assurance. IACUC functions, general overview. The IACUC reviews and approves of protocols and modifications to protocols. They inspect the facilities and review the program semi-annually and report to the IO. They review concerns about animal care and use. We are transparent. We need to ensure that if anybody has concerns, they can call the 1-800 anonymous number or call us, and they can, not state their name if they don't want to, but if they see any concerns with animals, we are here to listen to those concerns. The committee is to suspend activities that are not in compliance with the regulations and policy if need be. And they provide recommendations to the IO concerning the animal care and use program, facilities, and personnel training. So the frequency of review of protocols, PHS states that we need to review them every 3 years. But USDA said we need to review them every year. Again, the government is not in agreement. Here at UVA, we used to, of course, we cover everything, and we would review all protocols every year. The 3rd year review is the most important. It's what they call a de novo review. But as of May last year, the committee voted, hey, PHS doesn't make us do that anymore. So we're not going to have to review every year. Only the USDA protocols will be reviewed every year, and the VA funding. VA requires that strictly to review those protocols every year. Rodents, fish, frogs only require the 3rd annual review because why? They are not covered by the USDA, right? They're not a covered, what we call the covered species. So protocol review, the PI has to provide a rationale and purpose of the proposed project. He or she needs to provide a clear, concise, and sequential description of the procedures. It must be easily understood by all members because we do have lay members. And so we need to know from the PI, from the acquisition, need to know all the steps that they do from acquisition of the animal to the end of the study. What do they do? And they need to consider the alternatives to use less invasive procedures. And those alternatives would be the 3 R's, right? Remember those. Justification of the species and the number to be used. They have to be precise. They have to give us that statistical power analysis to provide, how many do I really need? And you don't need any more than what is decided by that power analysis. So avoidance of unnecessary duplication. Yeah, we don't want to repeat experiments that have been done at other universities or previously done. Why? That would take up more animals. So use of appropriate sedation and analgesia and anesthesia, they need to tell us what they're using, how they're housing and what they're housing in their husbandry description. They need to tell us what they're doing in post-procedural care in consideration of humane endpoints. And this is important because animals are not to go to their death. They need to be stopped when they see that they're suffering. The PI has to give us their criteria for when they're going to stop this study. And then they will list the training and experience of personnel in their protocol and the appropriate use of hazardous materials in animal research. And this is where we integrate with other committees. We have the Institutional Biosafety Committee that regulates biohazards. And then there's the Chemical Safety Officer that reviews hazardous chemicals. And there's also the Radiation Safety Group that checks on the radiation, the use of radiation in the work. Training researchers is very, very important, mandated by our laws, humane methods of animal maintenance and experimentation, methods that limit use of animals and minimize stress, proper use of anesthesia, analgesia, and tranquilizers, and methods for reporting deficiencies in care and treatment. It is important to report the deficiencies, right? And speaking of reporting, we're going to continue on here with reports. We have annual reports to the USDA once a year to provide the assurance that standards of care and treatment are followed, that the facility is adhering to regulations and have the approval for all exceptions. The reports for the USDA state where the locations where the animals are housed. They want to know how many vivaria we have, where are they, the number of animals, species used by pain and distress categories. So they're interested in seeing animals that are in higher distress categories like category D and E. And they want to be notified of any suspended activity right away. A little bit more about reports. This is the PHS now. This is the annual report to the PHS is to OLA through the IO. This is a report actually I'm working on currently, due on December 1st. It has to go through Dr. Ram to the OLA. It must note significant changes in the program, such as changes in the membership if we have new members, dates of our semi-annual IACUC inspections and program review. And in this case, I need to state that we've received a waiver for the April review, and we're going to do some other assessments now, but this is a little different this year. And then we have to state the notification with explanation of any serious or continuing noncompliance. Any suspension of activities need to be stated there. So grant applications, let's see. So this is the VAS part of the grant, and everything here should be described in the animal use protocol from the PI. So if they ask you, hey, where do I get this information from? Well, it's in your protocol, except for number 3. So let's just review here that they have to have the proposed use of animals, the justification for the animals, and the numbers to be used. But number 3, description of vet care, is not written in their protocol, but they can email the vets and or me. I may have that information. And they need to have the description of procedures for minimizing pain and distress and the description of rationale for method of euthanasia in their VAS. So how does our IACUC office help you? We have a protocol system that is specifically designed for grant admin data. I'm not sure if any of you have used this before, and especially if you are working on training grants, this may be helpful, in which case you may email me if you need access to this, and I will provide that. I will get our programmer who would do that. I can't really do it myself. But anyway, this provides you the PI name and his protocol number, the protocol title, and most recent review date. That is not, it may not be the annual review date that you may need for your grant work, but in which case you may ask us about that. And then the sponsor award information is their grant title, is what they have on their protocol, which should match what you have, but I think what you may have information about those PI grants may be more correct than maybe here. So you may want to check on that. But I think here in the middle it says click here to export the list below. So this will provide you an Excel spreadsheet. And that we have given a lot of grant admin folks access to this part of our website. So is the ICOOC required to review the grant application? So this is a topic of congruency between the grant and the protocol. So the policy and NIH grants require that the institution verify before award that the ICOOC has reviewed and approved the components related to the care and use of animals. Do we do this? Well, it's not an explicit requirement that we do this, because this would be an actual job for somebody to sit here all day and compare and contrast the grant versus the protocol. So it is the institutional responsibility for ensuring that the application proposed in IACUC protocol are congruent. So what do we do if we're not actually doing this specifically? We do it in certain cases, but not for everyone. So what do? We provide you a protocol verification form. So the purpose of that is we confirm for you that the PI has an active protocol and file, and we give you the date of review and approval. And then the grant admin folks, if they want to email us to get this form, they can set up a little template for themselves, and they can, tell me who the grant PI is, the grant title. That's the most important thing. I can tell by the protocol number or the title what protocol it is, but what is the grant title? I'm not really sure exactly what they need. So that information I need. And I said plan ahead here because, a lot of times we're very busy and we need like 48 hours to get this done for you. Some grant admin folks say, hey, I need this by this afternoon. Well, I'm also busy too, but we'll try to accommodate. We always do, but we please plan ahead. If you know that something's coming up that you need from us, please give us some warning. And this is what that form looks like. I don't know if you can see it, but it actually has our ALAC accreditation the last time we were accredited, and our PHS assurance at the top there. And so then we create this and create a PDF of it where we have the signature of the chair there at the bottom, and then you would obtain the PI signature, or they need to provide that. Post-award change in scope. So if a PI decides, you know what, I think my focus is changing, I need to change the direction where we're going, so they must obtain prior approval from NIH before going forward. NIH must be notified and approve of this, and these are called significant changes and must be reviewed and approved by the IACUC. They cannot just be added into their protocol. Anything added to a protocol must be reviewed. That is our rule. So we follow the animals and you follow the money, right? So what if animal research is performed in another country? Say Dr. Jones is collaborating with somebody from Brazil or from Germany. Well, OLA, they are now required, foreign institutions are required to have their own foreign assurance. And it's important to know that the person obtaining the NIH grant is primarily responsible for ensuring compliance with PHS policy. So hopefully nothing's going on out there in Brazil and Germany to cause any non-compliance with any collaborators here that are obtaining funding from PHS. So animal welfare assurance for foreign institutions, like I said, the collaborating foreign institution must obtain. And that wasn't so years ago. When I first started here, there were other methods of having these collaborations, and they did not need their own assurance, but that has changed. So interinstitutional collaborations, the guide on page 15 tells us that if there's collaborations between two institutions, they should have a formal written understanding or a memorandum of understanding or interinstitutional agreement that addresses the responsibility for offsite animal care and use, animal ownership, and IACUC review and oversight. Let me see. Yeah, that's correct. So just wanted to check where I was going to tell you something about what is written in this document, but we do create these for other institutions. And so used by institutionals, actually, let me go back here and tell you a little bit. It's okay. So this other interinstitutional assurance is used by institutions that receive PHS funds through grant or contract when the institution does not have their own animal care and use program. And you can think of these as more like maybe the SBIR, right? So the Small Business Innovation Research groups. So they might need an IACUC, or they might need people to do their work, right? They obtain the funding. So that's where I say that they are asking us to use our license, so to speak, and our car to drive and to obtain their goals. So the form must be signed by the IO and the IACUC chair and approved by OLA. And this form is found on the OLA website, and a copy of the grant and contract and animal work must be provided, the UV API's name and protocol number. And here's where I got mixed up because I wanted to show you this. This is the form actually of the interinstitutional assurance. And this is found in the OLA website. And yeah, so another, back to this topic of circling back to the two laws. So I wanted to just give you a little, at the end here, just give you a little bit more about what happened with those two laws, right? So on the 21st Century Cures Act in 2016, Congress decided to reduce admin burden for researchers, but they also provided additional funding for cancer and funding to combat mental illness and to help states in battling for national opioid epidemic, but also to reduce the burden for researchers, office staff, and IACUCs in this manner. And so this 21st Century Cures Act formed a working group between these entities, the NIH, USDA, and FDA, to analyze, review, and revise the regulations and policies. Remember, we have those too, and they try to combine them to make them a little bit more simple. So the final report was completed in August 2019, and the outcomes were that the USDA will seek to align its continuing review requirement from annual, remember we have to do the annual review, to the third annual review, just like PHS. So in the future, we have not changed that yet. And they're still deciding, and they're still having comment periods about this, but this will be happening in the near future. Hopefully it will be much easier for everyone. The Animal Welfare Act will need to be amended in that case, right? So this book of this Animal Welfare Act, which I didn't show you, it will be an act of Congress to change the rules. And then USDA will eliminate the need for registration every 3 years. Once we are registered, then this registration continues unless we change the animals that we're using. OLA will review and clarify requirements of grant to IACUC protocol congruence. They haven't really described that yet, but hopefully that will be discussed. OLA and USDA will work with the DoD and VA to also harmonize research oversight. So lots of good things may be coming in this 21st Century Cures Act. And just to show you our website here at UVA, and we've had some web developers help with that last year. And if you go to the bottom of that page is where the grant and accreditation info lives here. So if you click on that, you will see the date of the most recent ALAC accreditation there in 2019. You can actually obtain a copy of the letter there through this PDF, and you can see our assurance number and so on. And this will tell you here, you know, that little template about obtaining the protocol verification form. So that is how we can help you. And so the goals of the regulation and oversight is to take the animal research data from the labs and to make it as safe as possible, to be able to bring it to the bedside, to ensure safe, humane, and judicious use of animals, the minimal number of animals. But we need them in order to obtain and to advance our knowledge in science and medicine. All those vaccines that they're working on now, the COVID vaccines, you know, they're saying they're in phase 3, some of those companies, but where did that research start, do you think? You know, there's no way that they could have started with humans. You know, they had to start with animals. So, you know, the animal rights groups don't really want to hear that, but it's really truth. And just as a funny one, I just wanted to share that, you know, this animal research, we don't want to burden the administrators either. So just try to keep it as simple as possible. And good science goes hand in hand with good animal care, and good science go hand in hand, right? We need to keep those two together. So this is our information, our office number, and our website. We are located in Cobb Hall. We will be moving. Cobb Hall will be, taken by the School of Commerce, I think next year sometime. So we need to find a new location. We yet to be determined. We don't know where that will be. So this is my little cartoon at the end. Animal science here. And I can open it up for any questions. You must be having any questions after all that. Does anybody have anything they want to state? Let me see if I could see everybody here. Okay. Is there anybody that would like to discuss anything, or let me stop sharing this? Here we go. Anybody there?
Hi, I have a question. Could you briefly summarize the process for the animal protocol of a PI that's transferring from another university to UVA, how that works?
So the animal protocol being transferred to UVA. So a new PI, is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes.
So new PIs have to complete the UVA protocol, right? And so there's directions on our website exactly for new PIs. How do I start? Where do I begin? And I think at the very top, it says, call me. Call me, because what I usually do is I go to their office. Before COVID, I would go to their office, sit with them and explain exactly what they need to do. We go through the whole protocol. And if they had a protocol in the past, then it's an easy copy paste. Most of the questions are similar. So that's how it's transferred. And it is a new protocol. And
So it gets a new protocol number at UVA, and then for the animal protocol verification form that we request from you, we're going to have to include that new number.
That's
right?
correct. As soon as it's approved. As soon as it's approved. I can't really verify anything that is, I can say it's still pending approval, but that will be approved, yes.
Okay, cool, thank you.
I enjoy those meetings with the new PIs because it's a really good foundation for them to understand the training and the occupational health assessments that everybody needs. It's a good communication, which is now done through Zoom. Thank you, Ian. Is there anybody else that would like to discuss any of their questions? No? No questions about the laws and all this? Pepper, poor Pepper. All right. Well, you know where to find me. You know that I am here. I am in my office, believe it or not. Sometimes I do come here. Make sure that I have good internet. Rita, thanks for coming back.
Thank you for today. That was really nice. And I know everyone appreciated it. And if we have any questions, I'll be sure to reach out to you. And also, if anyone does, feel free to email me or Sylvia. And other than that, we'll see you next week for the last session. So have a great day, everyone.
Good luck to you guys. All the best.
Good luck for you next week, those of you.
Thank you for attending. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.